John Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thought I might just quickly traverse, for the benefit of Dr. Noman, some of the issues around the importance of China. In 15 years' time...
Point of order, Darren Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, the member, Mr. Grosser, referred to the leader of another party by a name that is not that member's name.
Well,
sorry, Mr. Hayes. Mr. Hayes made a comment about another member and referred to him by the pronunciation of his name, which was clearly intended to deride that member.
Well, I recall the name, and I didn't quite get the significance of who Mr. Hayes was referring to. I was a bit confused about that myself, but I just, if the member, Mr. Hayes, did make reference to a person with an inappropriate name, well, I'd ask the member to withdraw and apologise. If he did not, I accept his word.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't notice myself doing it, but I will withdraw and apologise to remove any doubt. At present, China has, in 15 years' time, that's 2025, China with 1.5 billion people will be the world's second-ranking economic power. At present growth rates, its GDP will outstrip Japan in 5 years' time. That's 2015. And America in 30 years' time. That's 2040. Its share of world GDP, currently 4.5%, will rise to 7% in 2015 and will be close to 15% in 15 years' time in 2025. Its average standard of living should be, by 2050, half that of America's. Even if China's annual growth rate is half that of today, it'll have a per capita income of US $6,000. Hundreds of millions of Chinese will by then belong to the middle class, and tens of millions to their upper class. Mr. Speaker, we can expect China to continue to finance the US deficit for some years to come. Mr. Speaker, we can expect China to become the leading investor in Asia, ahead of Japan and the United States. Despite the efforts of the Communist Party in China, it will eventually have to pass power to elected officials. And unless there are reforms, there are going to be many difficulties that China has to face. 90% of Chinese have no retirement plan or health insurance. Half the urban and 4/5 of rural people have no access to health care. Half of China's 500 biggest cities lack drinkable water or sewage systems. China will have to build urban infrastructure, fight corruption, put a stop to corruption in public finance areas, find work for hundreds of millions of people flowing into towns, improve education, reduce income gaps, train managers, reform an obsolete public sector, establish judicial systems capable of protecting private and intellectual property. By 2025, the Chinese Communist Party will have been in power for 76 years. No other political power in the world, no other political party in the world has lasted in power for more than 70 years. We can expect it to fade in importance. Across a bit, India's got 1.4 billion people. It should be the most populous nation on the earth by 2025 and the third-ranking economic power after America and China. I was at the launch of the Wellington chapter of the India-New Zealand Business Council earlier this week. The Indian High Commissioner at the meeting talked about India having 9% compound GDP growth for the next 20 years. India's democracy is going to have to meet and deal with very similar challenges to China. These developments will result in a doubling of urban populations within 10 years, that's 2025, and a doubling of the demand for raw materials. It's against this global background that we must position New Zealand to place our trading relationships on an open and secure footing. New Zealand companies will want to market produce but also services into China. We must ensure certain access to the Chinese and to the Hong Kong markets to allow the export of services, because our companies can benefit from liberalisation of both the Hong Kong and the Chinese markets. Mr. Speaker, these are the key reasons behind New Zealand entering into this agreement. We want a secure, more certain access to Hong Kong's services market, and we want to ensure that New Zealand service providers will benefit from future liberalisation by Hong Kong in particular sectors. We want to enable traders to benefit from trade facilitating rules of origin accompanied by robust verification systems. We want to provide a framework for regulatory cooperation and consultation, and we want to allow for more effective discussion and cooperation on labour and environmental matters in line with New Zealand's sustainable development and economic growth